Good morning. Welcome to Eyes on Books. We're so glad you're joining us, and I think you'll enjoy today's program. I'm Elaine Schnitter. My co-host this morning is Steve Savlov. The book we're going to tell you about is written by Anita Abriel, and the title is The Life She Wanted. We're going to first tell you a little bit about the story, and then we'll interview the author. So I hope you enjoy it. The story is basically a coming-of-age tale about two girls during their growing up period during the 1920s and 1930s in New York. The girls have high hopes for the future, and it's very interesting to see how it all plays out. The backdrop of the story is the view into the high society families of that era. These families had beautiful big estates in Hyde Park, New York, which overlooks the Hudson River. They lived quite a life of opulence. The boys with their Princeton boater hats on, out sailing on the river and having garden parties on the lawns, playing tennis, and enjoying quite a privileged life. Now, the problem was that these girls came from two different backgrounds and had two different ideas of what they wanted to do. So Steve is going to tell us about the girls.
Well, the name of the main character is Pandora, and she comes from modest means. The way she lived at one of these estates is that her father was a tennis coach who formerly was a finalist at Wimbledon. This was Pandora's entree into the society, and she became good friends with the daughter of the owners of this estate, and her name was Virginia. And as they grew up together, they became best friends. And also, she was also best friends with Virginia's brother, Archie. And so it takes you through all the various stages that Pandora went through. And Virginia was a little bit of a rebel in that instead of, the idea of her marrying rich and having an estate of her own, she became a publisher of books, and she delighted in that. So she found her calling. And Pandora wanted to be a fashion designer, and so she had wishes to open up her own boutique in Hyde Park, and make fashions to the rich people.
Yeah, that was her goal.
Yeah.
Of course, as we know, the times required that girls marry and have families and stay home.
Right.
And careers were really frowned upon at that time. So these two girls were forward-thinking, and they had to really fight their way up to what they wanted.
Right.
Now, Pandora, she realized that if she married well into this class, she would be able to afford her own business.
Right.
And that did work out for her, and she did marry well, and she did start a business. However, a very tragic scandal occurred, and she had to give it all up and flee to France.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was well. And what was interesting was the transformation out of, you know, her boutique burning down and going to France and going through some life experiences she wouldn't have gone through if she stayed in the States. And so she really grew in terms of her own self-esteem and learned that she doesn't really need a man to you know, in her life to become successful. She can become successful in her own right. In fact, she while she was in France, she started working for a fashion house where she was designing and so on.
Yeah, she really learned the trade, yeah.
Right. And so I found this book to be very much, for me, was a page turner.
And the thing about the writing, Stephen, I think we agreed, was the author really brought us into that era. We could envision these estates and these lovely parties. These estates had names like Riverview and Rosecrest and Stonehill, and they all had names.
Right.
And she brought us into that and described it really well. You felt you were a part of it. And also with the fashion, I was very impressed with how she described the fashion, because we have seen that in movies, we are somewhat familiar with it, but she did a wonderful job of describing it.
Right. Yeah, like you said, it really brought you into the situation, and she was very detailed.
She was,
about, and very knowledgeable about what went on in the 1920s and early 30s. And so it kind of kept me intrigued. Not that I'm a fashion aficionado, but just the way she wrote this book kept my interest.
And it was an interesting time for fashion, I think, because it went from the very reserved dress that women were expected to wear to fashion that was more like what we're used to, sporty in a way.
Yeah, sportswear.
So we'll have a good time questioning her then when she comes on in a few minutes.
I look forward to that.
Yeah, me too.
Well, welcome, Anita Hughes Abriel. We're looking forward to interviewing you and getting to know you. We know that you were born in Sydney, Australia. You got your bachelor's at Bard College. Moved to the U.S. as a teen and married and moved to California.
Smart move.
Yes. Yes.
And
great,
we understand.
Great state.
We understand when you were 8 years old, you won a Best Young Writers trophy, and it seemed like when we were reading the book that it was very detailed. So the first question is, what led you into writing this book? I really enjoyed it. Would like to read. Go ahead.
Well, so my first 17 novels, or however many, were women's sort of modern day commercial women's fiction under Anita Hughes. And then I wanted to write some historical fiction because I love historical fiction.
So do I.
Under Anita Abriel, which is my maiden name. And the first one was The Light After the War, which was based on my mother's experiences and escape during the Holocaust. So I wrote 3 books of sort of Holocaust fiction, which I really enjoyed, but eventually I found it just a little, obviously, it's very heavy subject matter.
Yeah.
So I wanted to write more historical fiction, but I love, personally, I love writing about fashion and gorgeous villas and estates and I then Pandora's story kind of came to me, and she just sort of came to me fully formed, and I just really wanted to tell her story. And so that's kind of how it all happened.
So,
Well, it certainly shows that you love all of those beautiful things in your writing. We admired all of that. It was so beautifully descriptive. I love the fashion. You took us right there, the Princeton boys running around with their boater hats and sailing out on the river, and the girls in their beautiful afternoon dresses at their lawn parties. I mean, it was beautifully done. You're wonderful with that.
Thank
Really.
you.
so
I enjoy writing it very much.
Yeah, well, it shows. You bring us right in. We want to put those clothes on or see someone wearing them.
I'll wear a boater's
Amen.
hat. What was it in your background that kind of led you to, being interested in fashion and
Well, the hilarious
how
thing is if you knew me, and like many writers, I own almost no clothes. I could wear the same thing every single day, and kind of do. I practically have a uniform, one uniform to walk in and one uniform to write in. But I love beauty of any kind. I love beautiful places. I love beautiful things. I love just looking at beauty. And so to me, clothes is about the beauty, and it's just always inspired me. I love movies because I love all those classic movies, Grace Kelly and Audrey Hepburn and Elizabeth Taylor, because of the beauty of their clothes. And so I've just always been fascinated by it, even though I don't subscribe to it myself.
Well, when you were growing up, did you have exposure to that? I mean, how did you get
My
interested?
parents were both European, and they were both Holocaust survivors. So kind of yes and no. I mean, I think the European sensibility in terms of fashion, yes, but no, there was no Dior running around my house. I think that just really came with just sort of the just beauty. I just love studying it and writing about it and thinking about it.
Well, it's wonderful to just zero in on the beauty of the world, because there's a lot of beauty in this world, and sometimes we don't notice it as we
It's
should.
so true. My first book ever, Monarch Beach, which is set at the which was then the St. Regis in Monarch Beach in California.
Oh,
And it's
we're
a
right.
very,
We're
very,
not far from
very,
there.
very beautiful hotel. And the premise there, the main character, her husband cheats on her, and she goes to the St. Regis to recover. And the premise, the theme was, if you're surrounded by beauty, is it healing? Because at the St. Regis, everywhere you looked was beauty. The orchids were beautiful, the ceiling was beautiful. And so I've just really found that that's just sort of an interesting question. Does beauty, and I mean beauty in everything, in flowers and trees and food and everything, does it help heal you?
But was the 1920s and early 30s, was there something about that drew you in?
Very much so. To me, The Life She Wanted is a coming-of-age story about Pandora at a time when both the country and the women's movement in the country was coming of age.
Right.
And so that's again, I didn't want to write another war book, and so I purposely avoided both wars, and I just really loved the hope of the 1920s, and then of course the little bit that it focuses on the Depression and the collapse. But mainly, I think the early 20th century really was a time when the world the country was coming of age, and especially the women's movement was coming of age.
Right.
Well, the characters certainly portrayed that well in the struggle to attain their desires and their dreams. I mean, they had to fight uphill to get what they wanted. And it was so expected that you married and had a family, and careers were just not out there waiting for you.
You wanted to get a loan to start your own business. They didn't loan money to women.
Oh, exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
in my research, I discovered that, women didn't get credit cards until the 70s, which, as I was well born by the 70s, and that's just, I can't even imagine, or bank accounts until the 70s.
Yeah. Yeah, they will they'll lend the money to the husband, but not to the wife.
Right. And then if the husband had any problems in his own bank account or something, then the wife couldn't get any money.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Male-dominated society. Yeah.
Very much so. Very much so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pandora and Virginia, her best friend, were really ahead of their time, and that's sort of what I'm trying to do in my historical fiction now, including the next book that's coming next year is about women that were sort of ahead of their time at that time.
Well, good. Tell us about your next one. It's about
So I have one
women.
coming out in March called The Philadelphia Heiress. And very interestingly, it is based on the real life character that the movie, The Philadelphia Story, with Katharine Hepburn and Jimmy Stewart and Cary Grant, is based on. And it's set in the main line of Philadelphia, and then a couple of other locations, England and Portofino. But it's about another woman who was sort of very much ahead of her time, very much, and did not want to be held back by her husband or society.
The one story that The Life She Wanted did remind me of was Sabrina, the movies,
Yes.
Audrey
Yeah.
Hepburn and William Holden, and she being the chauffeur's daughter. And
I
that
mean,
was a
obviously no
sweet
coincidence,
story.
because I've watched every Audrey Hepburn movie known to man.
Yeah.
And actually, one of my books, Roman Love, which was based on Roman Holiday, was turned into a Hallmark movie. So that's what an Audrey Hepburn fan I am.
So she has inspired you.
Did you write in the box of leaves that both Archie and Pandora, they wrote on the leaves, and so in some ways it seemed to me that it was a kind of a transitional part of your story, because it was kind of more at the beginning and then ended up at the end. And
Very much so. I mean, I couldn't imagine Pandora and Archie not ending up together.
right.
And I think that's the yearning between them, and especially Pandora's yearning for everything, just sort of from standing on the outside
Right.
her whole life, is what really drew me to her. And, if it had been simple and she ended up with Archie immediately, that would have been something, but, it's never simple. And it just took so long to figure that out. And I think that is what made her story, to me, just sort of very interesting and heartfelt.
Yeah.
Well, we were very glad when it all worked out for them. We were happy for them.
Amen. Yes, me too.
And Lucy Vanderbilt seemed to find someone else anyway, so that was okay.
Yes.
You know, she wasn't left in the wings.
No, she wouldn't be.
Right, that's for sure. Yeah. You also did focus somewhat on homosexuality in that era, which we found was pretty interesting. I think we forget sometimes the legality of it and the fact that you could be arrested for being caught in the act of being a homosexual. I know things have changed, although when I looked into it, I found out that Texas still had laws about that up until 2003. So it's not really.
Is that right? Huh.
Yeah, it's only 20 years that the entire country has been free of illegality for homosexuality. However, it seems like things are going the wrong way with that lately.
As
Far as homophobia.
It was very fascinating doing the study of it at that time. And, you know, of course, with Oscar Wilde, before that time, but, you know, the whole history of all of it. And, you know, I really, really felt for Pandora and, you know, for both of them, and for Harley, because it wasn't easy for either of them. And, you know, no relationships are easy. And Harley was a good guy. He was a really good guy. He just, you know, the marriage in that way didn't work, even though they both wanted it to work. And of course, you know, that's what fiction is about. There's got to be drama, and there's things. Everything can't work, or you don't have a story.
Yeah, and it seemed as if he really wanted it to work, but he couldn't make it work. It just wasn't.
Exactly.
It
He
wasn't
really,
going to happen.
he loved her. He loved her in his way, and of course, he loved Esme, their daughter. But he just couldn't make it work the way that it needed to work.
Yeah.
Where did you do all your research?
Generally, I just do my research online.
Oh, okay.
You know, just dig in as I go and just keep prodding and poking.
You don't go and visit, you know, the
Hyde Park.
Hyde Park.
Yeah, I mean, I actually went to college. I went to college at Bard, which is actually right there.
Oh, okay.
Is
Bard
it?
College is in Annandale on Hudson, which is very close to there.
That's not far. Yeah.
Yeah, so I did know about all of those estates there and loved them very much.
Yeah, and FDR's estate is there also. He was born in Hyde Park.
Yeah.
So it's pretty well-known area.
It was beautiful there.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes me want to go there now.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Just
really,
to,
especially this time of year.
Yeah.
Do they have any tours?
Well,
I'm sure they probably do, actually. I'm sure they have tours of the local houses. I'm pretty sure they do.
Yeah, well, the FDR, they do, for sure. And they even
and
Eleanor,
Vanderbilt's, I'm sure they do, too.
Yeah, and Eleanor's home that was built on that property, it's also open to viewing. Eleanor Roosevelt's house. Yeah.
Yes, I'm sure they do.
So, yeah, it'd be interesting. So are you traveling at all to research your new book, or are you?
The new book is written, so no.
Oh, you're finished? Okay. It would be a good excuse to travel.
What
already for pre-order on Amazon. And then I'm sort of thinking about what to write next after that.
And what's the title, Anita, of your new book?
The Philadelphia Heiress.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Philadelphia Heiress. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll have to look for
Yeah.
that.
It's historical.
Yeah, it's got a great cover. They did a really nice job on the cover.
Oh, good.
It's historical fiction.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that genre.
Yeah, yeah.
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 Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
same.
we're big fans of Marie Benedict and Fiona Davis and their
Oh, me
books.
too. I love both of them.
Yeah.
I read all of their stuff, and Nicole Harrison and all of those. Yeah, there's a lot of great Pam Jan. There's a lot of great historical fiction.
Yeah, and Lisa C. Has done some great historical fiction,
Yeah.
and we've interviewed her. We had her on our show for her book, The Island of Sea Women. That
Yeah.
was the title.
Oh
of
yeah,
it.
she's wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, that was quite a good book. And
Yeah. My favorite read is Ken Follett. Follett?
Oh yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
his books are long, though.
I like that.
They're like,
I get lost in those books.
yeah, yeah. Well, is there anything else you'd like to tell us about yourself or your work or your...
Just thank you so much for having me. And, I love writing, so I love connecting with my readers. I have a website, AnitaAbriel.com, and then my women's fiction is AnitaHughesBooks.com. So you can leave, messages on either one. And there's just nothing I enjoy more than connecting with readers.
Oh, well, again, we really appreciate your time, and
My pleasure.
we'll be looking for the Philadelphia Heiress.
Wonderful.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you so much for having me.
You're such an easy interview.
Yes, you are. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. I hope you enjoyed our description of the life she wanted, and I hope you enjoyed our interview with the author Anita Abriel. We're going to be looking forward to her new book, The Philadelphia Heiress, which will be coming out in March. So thanks again. See you next time.
We thank you for tuning in to Eyes on Books. And if you have any books that you think might make an interesting discussion or authors who are good speakers, we'd love to hear your suggestions. Contact us at eyesonbooks@yahoo.com and keep watching.